Nazareth, now accompanied by his disciples. About a year earlier, he taught in the synagogue there. The people initially marveled at what he said, but they later took offense at his teaching and tried to kill him. Now Jesus again tries to help his former neighbors. On the Sabbath, he returns to the synagogue to teach. Many are astounded, even asking, "Where did this man get this wisdom and these powerful works?" They say, "Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And his sisters, are they not all with us? Where, then, did he get all of this?" Matthew 13. 54-56. The people feel that Jesus is just a local man. We saw him grow up, they think, so how can he be the Messiah? Consequently, despite all the evidence, including Jesus' great wisdom and powerful works, they reject him. Because of their familiarity with Jesus, even his relatives stumble at him, causing him to observe, "A prophet is not without honor except in his home territory and in his own house." Matthew 13. 57. Indeed, Jesus is amazed at their lack of faith. So he does not perform any miracles there except to lay his hands on a few sick people and cure them. Mark 6. 5, 6. Jesus heals the blind and the speechless people in Nazareth reject him by addressing Jesus as Son of David. What do the blind men show they believe? The Pharisees fall back on what explanation for Jesus' miracles? What reception does Jesus receive in Nazareth, and why? 48, 121. Jesus has been preaching intensively for some 2 years. Is it now time to let up and take it easy? On the contrary, Jesus expands his preaching activity by setting out on a tour of all the cities and villages of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the good news of the kingdom and curing every sort of disease and every sort of infirmity. Matthew 9. 35. What he says convinces him of the need to expand the preaching work. But how will he accomplish this? As he travels, Jesus sees people in need of spiritual healing and comfort. They are like sheep without a shepherd, skinned and thrown about. He feels pity for them and tells his disciples, "Yes, the harvest is great, but the workers are few. Therefore, beg the master of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." Matthew 9. 37, 38. Jesus knows what will help. He summons the 12 apostles and divides them into pairs, making 6 teams of preachers. He then gives them clear instructions. Do not go off into the road of the nations, and do not enter any Samaritan city. But instead, go continually to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, preach, saying, "The kingdom of the heavens has drawn near." Matthew 10. 5-7. The kingdom they are to preach about is the one Jesus spoke of in the model prayer. The kingdom has drawn near in the sense that God's designated king, Jesus Christ, is present. Preaching in Galilee and training the apostles. Matthew 9. 35. 10. 15. Mark 6. 6-11. Luke 9. 1-5. What, though, will prove that his disciples truly represent this kingdom government? Jesus empowers them to cure the sick and even raise the dead, all of this at no charge. How, then, will the apostles care for their own needs, such as their daily food? Jesus tells his disciples not to make their own material preparations for this preaching tour. They are not to get gold, silver, or copper for their purses. They do not even need a food pouch for the trip nor extra undergarments or sandals. Why not? Jesus assures them, the worker deserves his food. Matthew 10. 10. The people they find to appreciate their message will help care for the disciples' basic needs. Jesus says, "Wherever you enter into a home, stay there until you leave that place." Mark 6. 10. Jesus also gives instructions on how to approach householders with the kingdom message, saying, "When you enter the house, greet the household. If the house is deserving, let the peace you wish it come upon it. But if it is not deserving, let the peace from me return upon you. Wherever anyone does not receive you or listen to your words, on going out of that house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. Matthew 10. 12-14. It could even be that an entire city or village rejects their message. What does that mean for such a place? Jesus reveals that severe adverse judgment will result. He explains, "Truly I say to you, it will be more endurable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on Judgment Day than for that city." Matthew 10. 15. Jesus again tours Galilee. He sends the apostles out to preach. When does Jesus begin another preaching tour of Galilee, and what does he note about the people? How does Jesus send out the 12 apostles, and with what instructions? In what sense has the kingdom drawn near? 49-123. Jesus provides his apostles with excellent instructions on how to carry out the preaching work as they go forth in pairs. He does not stop there, however. He kindly warns them about opposers. "Look, I am sending you out as sheep among wolves. Be on your guard against men, for they will hand you over to local courts, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. And you will be brought before governors and kings for my sake." Matthew 10. 16-18. Yes, Jesus' followers may encounter severe persecution, yet he reassuringly promises them, "When they hand you over, do not become anxious about how or what you are to speak, for what you are to speak will be given you in that hour. For the ones speaking are not just you, but it is the Spirit of your Father that speaks by you." Jesus continues, "Brother will hand brother over to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against parents and will have them put to death. And you will be hated by all people on account of my name, but the one who has endured to the end will be saved." Matthew 10. 19-22. Because the preaching is of primary importance, Jesus emphasizes the need for his followers to be discreet so as to remain free to carry out this work. He says, "When they persecute you in one city, flee to another. For truly I say to you, you will by no means complete the circuit of the cities of Israel until the Son of Man arrives." Matthew 10. 23. What outstanding instructions, warnings, and encouragement Jesus gives to his 12 apostles. You can appreciate, though, that these words are also meant for those who will share in the preaching work after Jesus' death and resurrection. This is shown by his saying that his disciples will be hated by all people, not just by those to whom the apostles are being sent to preach. Furthermore, we do not read of the apostles being brought before governors and kings during this short preaching campaign in Galilee, nor of their being delivered up to death by family members. Clearly, Jesus has the future in mind in saying these things to the apostles. Consider his statement that his disciples will not complete their circuit of preaching until the Son of Man arrives. Jesus is indicating that his disciples will not complete the preaching about God's kingdom before the glorified King Jesus Christ arrives as God's judge. While carrying out the preaching work, they prepare to preach despite persecution. Matthew 10. 16. 11. 1 Mark 6. 12, 13 Luke 9. 6, 124. Apostles should not be surprised to face opposition, for Jesus says, "The disciple is not above his teacher, nor a slave above his master." Jesus' point is clear. He faces ill treatment and persecution for preaching God's kingdom, and so will they. Yet Jesus urges, "Do not become fearful of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in Gehenna." Matthew 10. 24, 28. In this, Jesus set the example. He fearlessly endured death rather than compromise his loyalty to the one with all power, Jehovah. It is Almighty God who can destroy a person's soul, his future prospects for life, or who can resurrect him to enjoy everlasting life. How reassuring this must be to the apostles. Jesus illustrates God's loving care for his followers in this way. 2 sparrows sell for a coin of small value, do they not? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground without your Father's knowledge. So have no fear. You are worth more than many sparrows. Matthew 10. 29, 31. The message Jesus' disciples preach will divide households, some family members accepting it and others not. Do not think I came to bring peace to the earth, Jesus explains. Yes, it takes courage for a family member to embrace Bible truth. Whoever has greater affection for father or mother than for me is not worthy of me, Jesus observes, and whoever has greater affection for son or daughter than for me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:34-37. Yet, some will receive his disciples favorably. He says, "Whoever gives one of these little ones only a cup of cold water to drink because he is a disciple, I tell you truly, he will by no means lose his reward." Matthew 10:42. Well equipped with Jesus' instructions, warnings, and encouragement, the apostles head out through the territory from village to village, declaring the good news and performing cures everywhere. Luke 9:6. Jesus trains and sends out the apostles. Jesus provides what warnings for his disciples? What encouragement and comfort does he give them? Why do Jesus' instructions also apply to us today? 125. While Jesus' apostles are carrying out their ministry in Galilee, the one who introduced Jesus has no such liberty. John the Baptist is still in prison after almost 2 years. John had openly declared that it was wrong for King Herod Antipas to take Herodias, the wife of his half-brother Philip, as his own. Herod had divorced his first wife to marry Herodias. According to the Mosaic law, which Herod claims to follow, this marriage is adulterous and illegal. In response to John's reproof, Herod had John thrown into prison, perhaps at the urging of Herodias. Herod is at a loss as to what to do with John, because the people take him for a prophet. Matthew 14:5. Herodias, though, feels no such indecision. She's nursing a grudge against him, and in fact, she keeps seeking to have him put to death. Mark 6:19. Finally, the opportunity arises. Shortly before the Passover of 32 CE, Herod arranges a large celebration for his birthday. All of Herod's top-ranking officials and army officers, as well as the leading citizens of Galilee, assemble for the party. During the festivities, Salome, the young daughter of Herodias by her former husband Philip, is sent in to dance for the guests. The men are enthralled by her performance. Highly pleased with his stepdaughter, Herod says to her, "Ask me for whatever you want, and I will give it to you." He even swears, "Whatever you ask me for, I will give it to you, up to half my kingdom." Before answering, Salome goes out and says to her mother, "What should I ask for?" Mark 6:22-24. This is the opportunity that Herodias has been seeking. The head of John the Baptizer, she promptly answers. Immediately, Salome comes back to Herod with her request. "I want you to give me right away on a platter the head of John the Baptist." Mark 6:24-25. This greatly distresses Herod, but his guests have heard his oath to Salome. He is embarrassed not to grant it, even if this means murdering an innocent man. Hence, Herod sends a bodyguard to the prison with the grisly instructions. Soon the bodyguard returns with John's head on a platter. He gives it to Salome, who takes it to her mother. When John's disciples hear what has happened, they come and remove his body and bury it. Then they report the matter to Jesus. Later, when Herod hears of Jesus healing people and casting out demons, he is disturbed. He wonders if the man doing these things, Jesus, is actually John the Baptist now raised up from the dead. Luke 9:7. So Herod Antipas greatly desires to see Jesus. This is certainly not to hear Jesus preaching. Rather, Herod wants to see Jesus to confirm whether his concerns are well-founded or not. Murder during a birthday party. Matthew 14:1-12. Mark 6:14-29. Luke 9:7-9. Why is John the Baptist in prison? How does Herodias finally manage to have John killed? After John's death, why does Herod Antipas want to see Jesus? 126. Herod has John the Baptist beheaded. 51. The 12 apostles have enjoyed a preaching tour throughout Galilee, and they relate to Jesus all the things they had done and taught. Understandably, they are tired. Yet, They do not even have time to eat because so many people are coming and going. So Jesus says, "Come,